respected dignitaries, the council member, the central council, the regional council members, respected industry colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, very good morning. It's a pleasure to be here and standing in front of you to share some thoughts on how personally I have experienced the rise of GCCs over the last 3 decades. Been part of that industry, been part of that evolution, and seen how it has changed, evolved, and transformed over the last 3 decades. Please bear with me, I have a bit of a bad throat. What is important is also to see what has happened, but at the same point of time to understand what it will take further to continue to build India as the GCC capital of the world. I think in the next 10-15 minutes, I would like to share with you 3 things. And if it makes sense, I think it will be helpful. If it is not, it's informative. Sharing a bit of 3 decades of this GCC industry. As I talked about building India as a GCC hub, but most important, I think how we as a community, how you all as industry leaders, maybe many of you representing different kind of firms, CA firms, advisory firms, can play a very vital role in the next leap of the GCCs in India. A quick question with a show of hands, if you can just tell me, and I'll just go 1 to 6. Actually, I thought I'll do a Menti, which is like an online poll, but in interest of the time, I'm just doing a show of hands. You know, you have heard since morning a lot of us talking about that the GCCs came to India because of the cost. But I have listed down about 6 reasons on this slide. In your opinion, why GCCs are set up? Whoever believes option 1 as the right option can raise your hands, and with a show of hands, option 1. Whoever can pick option 1, which is consolidate on offshore transactional work. None of you believe that's the reason? Interesting. Cost optimization. How many of you believe the GCC is set up for cost optimization? Very nice. Good to hear. Good to see some hands going up, right? Efficiencies and enhanced customer experience. How many of you believe that? Few hands. Okay. Access to talent pipeline and specialized skills. More hands going up. More hands going up. Innovation continuum and strategic decision making. Few hands. Not bad. Market expansion and competitive edge. A few hands. So interestingly, there is a research data, and this is something based on the research data just to share with you. Predominantly, and the majority of the GCCs which came in the past or coming now, they're all coming for all these reasons, but starting with something which is interesting is the option 2. Still they want to drive cost optimization. Whatever said and done, we will say, I think they come to India for cost optimization. Now, the difference of cost optimization is earlier it was all about cost arbitrage. Now, it is not just about arbitrage. Arbitrage is what happens, the cost of resource in, let's say, US or Europe or UK, and when you bring the role to India, there's a 50-60% of arbitrage. That is only first 1 year, the first time. They're not coming for the first year optimization. They're coming for a continuous optimization. And the continuous optimization is only possible if we have innovative ways of performing the same thing. And if you perform innovative ways, you need to be creating innovational center of excellence or center of expertise, and I'll talk about that. And that's where the talent becomes very, very important, and the talent starts playing a global role here. Just to give you a quick view of the last 3 decades. As we all talked about, started with the labor arbitrage, let me also interestingly confess that many of us who were part of this GBS, GCC industry, and respected dignitaries on the stage as well, we landed in this industry by accident. Okay. We just came in this industry without even having a clue of what this industry is all about. And in the last 3 decades, we have seen it evolving very differently. I think my previous speaker, he was talking about Texas Instruments. It came 40 years ago to India. 40 years ago. And it was supposed to do engineering services, CAD/CAM. I can share with you there are many companies today, they're still in the US struggling to figure out what they can bring to India because of multiple reasons. Just to share with you an interesting experience, how this happened. I mean, our legacy and genesis goes back to American Express, which was the first ever business services and a finance and accounting center of excellence in India 3 decades ago, mid-90s. And American Express actually went up to a level where the risk management was or is part of the India operations. In fact, India is the second largest location for American Express outside US. And post-Amex, I mean, you'll find many GCCs these days, they're all led by people who would have their humble beginning at American Express 2 decades, 2.5 decades ago. They're leading the large GCCs today. The next one, the big one, was the GE, and then many more to happen. It started with more of a banking financial services industry, and then it became part of pharma, retail, and you name the industry. Today we are talking about media entertainment, like Warner Brothers is having a large center in Hyderabad. The difference of this entire evolution is, while many of us landed by accident, but we started to reinvent ourselves, to reposition ourselves. Our initial narrative was, give me some more work because we are going to perform cheaper for you. And that narrative, we realized that if you continue with that narrative for long, you will become by design a transactional hub and by design a cost center. So there was a need to change that narrative. And that is where we started repositioning ourselves by saying, hey, look, it is just not about cost. That is given first year. But what is important is now you will also get that talent arbitrage. You're not able to find that talent. You're struggling. You go to Japan, for instance, Japan is struggling for talent. And they're looking for that talent, and you can find that talent augmentation here. You want value, and people here can think of business impact, business outcomes. And that is what they're finding the difference, and now really looking at innovation. So that's the journey of repositioning, reinvention, which happened over the last 3 decades. Now, everybody has talked about there are 1,900 GCCs, it's a $46 billion industry, etc. It's going to become $100 billion and so on and so forth. It's all good promises. There's a lot of growth which is going to happen. But are you part of that is important. And how significantly you are part of it, and not just as a professional CS, because as I mentioned to you, and I'll talk about it, there are, the CS have been the foundation of the GCC, GBS, thanks to many of these financial shared services, GBS, which started for last 20 years. But there's an opportunity for us, the next leap in terms of a lot of advisory areas, advisory firms, the CA firms. I think somebody was talking about aggregation of advisory firms, how we can bring an impact in this entire GCC space. Very small to read, but just to give you a flavor of the way it has all evolved over the last 3 decades. I was talking about American Express and GE here, and then how you can see over the years, this graph has grown. And I could not place everything into one slide, so I left it pretty much till 2020, and I said, okay, there's more which is possible. We have a lot of this data. This is research-based data. And how it kept on evolving. Industry-wise, multiple industries. Process-wise, multiple processes. Location-wise, in India, multiple locations started becoming very popular. While Bengaluru and Hyderabad is talked about, Pune, Chennai, etc., started becoming popular. Just to give you a quick flavor of that, I was talking to Jay Chowdhury, who is known as the architect of tech ecosystem in India. The guy actually, he was the founder of STPI, and he worked with the government of Andhra Pradesh as the chief secretary, special chief secretary, to create Hyderabad and the high-tech city and the T-hub and so on and so forth. And he was very fondly talking about how the evolution has happened in terms of the tech transformation and the talent transformation over the years. And that's something which we see pretty much as a part of this entire thing. So analytics, R&D is nothing new. This is all being delivered for the last 20 years. The difference is, are we aware of it and are we part of it? I want just to clarify that, because I heard a lot of people talking about, oh, this is going to happen, or this is happening. This is happening for 20 plus years. The numbers are going up, more and more companies are becoming part of it, and there's an opportunity for all of us to play a role here. In fact, just to give you another example, I was having a chat with BVR Mohan Reddy last week. He was the past chairman of NASSCOM, and he's a founder, director, and board member for Scient, and also the T-Hub director. He was talking about, how 40 years ago, in fact, 35 years ago, he went and started a company on engineering services. Engineering services, 30 years ago. Now, thinking about building India as the GCC hub, what we need to do? I'll just quickly, in the interest of time, I'll just flow with it. I think this GCC, many of you will hear people talking about the full form of GCC as Global Capacity Center, Global Capability Center, etc., etc. Being part of this industry for 3 decades, I have a big problem with the third letter of this GCC, the C in this entire GCC, which is center. It restricts your capability. It restricts your mindset. And as a chartered accountant, we always believe that we should be able to see the transaction to finally the balance sheet. And that is where we are talking about, if you really want to build India as the GCC capital of the world, we need to see the 2 C's as capability and collaboration. We need to promote collaboration. And collaboration here, which is of course within the GCCs or with the enterprise, but most important here with the ecosystem. Like the previous speaker was talking about the infrastructure. But how about the specialized skills? Many of you will have a specialized skills, the talent to offer. The smaller setups, why it has to be always a large organization or a large GCC enablers only to do that? But working with large IT BPO companies as well. So we being a GCC enablers, we work with ecosystem, academia, very important academia, industry forums, and I think I would like to compliment and thank ICAI and all the members of the ICAI and the team which has worked to set up a conference like this, because it is very important to bring, thank you Sanjay, it is very important to bring this community together, to tell you and to tell all of us and to tell the world that we are there to support you. And it is not only going to be some big names and big GCC enablers or IT firms which is only going to do that. We all can do it. And that's why ecosystem becomes very important. So in this GCC, I will say it's about global capability and collaboration hub. It should not be global capability center. Actually, I would like to give a name called GCCH, which is global capability and collaboration, not center. And we need to become a capability catalysts to drive that change for many global enterprises. Very important, why we are saying this is GCC is going to be a strategic asset. And if I don't change my narrative from a transaction processing, cost center, cost optimization to a strategic asset, we are not going to earn and win a lot of opportunities. I give you example, when, a lot of us were talking about, I think Sunil sir was talking about Ahmedabad. We came to Ahmedabad to set up the first GCC way back in 2007. The first GCC in Ahmedabad way back in 2007, when the infrastructure and the talent was not that organized. And of course, since then, we have been part of this entire ecosystem for the last 18, 19 years, seeing how many of these companies have grown. We have worked with some of the large conglomerates here to define and create their strategies around the GCCs, the building blocks for their GCCs. And we take a lot of pride, sir, to say that over the last 20 years, we have created 150,000 jobs in India by our strategies. In this entire journey, the most critical piece is that narrative. and that strategic asset, how the GCCs needs to become strategic asset. Is it part of the business model for that enterprise? Or is it something which is just set up for the sake of being set up? Is it really bringing that competitive edge? Is it providing that view of what is risk looks like for the company? Is it enabling that agility not just in the processes, which is like, let's say, accounts payable, and I'm trying to make it more from the finance point of view, not just accounts payable processes, but does it cuts across the function to make your purchase cost better for the organization? Does it provide your working capital better? Does it provide for your ratings better by the government organizations? That is going to be important here. And last but not least, it provides the intellectual property. The GCCs are creating intellectual properties, and I'll request a lot of your CA friends here to go and look at what kind of intellectual properties you can create, what kind of new products you can create to support this entire GCC ecosystem. I think this is a GCC maturity model which we have created, and I don't want to go too much into it, but just to give you a sense how the companies have really moved from being an ops center to becoming an enterprise center. In fact, today, still people are on the GCC, they're still talking about value. Value is still level 3, you can see that, value center. There's a huge opportunity to become level 4 and level 5, and there's a lot of details available about that. How you move from just being a capability and that collaboration, on the foundation of collaboration. The biggest challenge of many of the GCCs is that they're not able to make commitments. They're still talking about cost optimization, 5 FTEs reduction, 2 FTEs reduction. Oh, I've reduced 2 FTEs, I've deployed 2 bots. That narrative is not going to make you GCCs. You are still shared services if you're doing that. I think I'll not take much of time. You all know that. I think from the process value chain in the accounting, you start with an operational processes, but in the GCC world, it has already gone up to the analytics. What is most important is, if you want to drive a transformation, you start from a transaction. Do you understand the transaction? And the CAs are the best people to understand the transactions. They can make a huge impact from a transaction to transformation because they understand the level of details in the ledgers, what it goes. Similarly, the processes in the finance can be also looked from the transaction processes, how it goes to the value-add services. I've heard a lot of people talking about I deliver value-add services without even understanding the middle path, which is the functional excellence. If you don't connect the process and the value-add with the functional excellence, you will not be able to deliver on it. And you need to have the right business KPIs. You can't just run with a typical transactional KPIs. What is another term which I want to leave with you guys, because you'll hear a lot of times people talking about COEs, which is Center of Excellence. And I personally believe that Center of Excellence we created about 20 years ago. Now the time is there to create Center of Expertise, which is more skilled environment. Excellence is still operational in the nature, which is important. I mean, I'm not saying don't stop brushing your teeth, which is hygiene. What I'm saying that how can we really move the ladder to become center of expertise and not just remain center of excellence. Last, I want to talk about is the opportunities for CAs and advisors. I think we all know there are about 80,000 plus CAs who are part of this GBS space. There's a lot of discussions happening about tier 2 cities. Let me honestly talk about what we are doing as an organization. We are actually, every year we pick some tier 2 cities and work with the local ecosystem to promote those cities. We are very happy to work with GIFT as well here and see how we can further, while it's pretty much known globally, but we are happy to further promote on that front. We have been working with some of the tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities in the last 1 year, 2 years with a lot of organizations and the ecosystem. What is important for you guys, if you want to take a note of it, is that there's a need to have a mindset shift. There's a need to have a mindset shift, not skill set shift. You have a skill set. You have a capability set. So skill set and a capability set is already there. What is an opportunity for you is to have a mindset shift. And the mindset shift, I give you 4 kinds of mindsets, if you can reflect on it. And maybe not for all, but I think for a few of you may like to reflect on it is, one is enterprise mindset. Don't just look at accounting. Don't just look at process, but look at how it is impacting that enterprise finally I'm working for or delivering services to. So that commercial and business acumen, which is a domain understanding, if you're working for a pharma company, you're working for a diversified organization, you're working for a retail organization, how you're connecting the domain understanding with that accounting becomes very, very important. Second term, which is my term, and I want to give it to you. We have not still patented it, but hopefully at some time. How many of you know BAU? What is BAU? Business as usual, right? I'm talking about the time is up for business as usual. If you really want to become a disruptor, then you should be actually doing a DAU, which is disruption as usual. And disruption as usual is only possible if you disrupt yourself rather waiting for something externally, environment to come and force you to disrupt. You create your own disruption. You should become part of your BAU. The DAU should become part of a BAU. And there are two interesting terms I also want to give it to you is, there's an MD and a CM which is written there. What is CM? Council member? Chief Minister? Neither, with a lot of respect to the council members, it's not council members, or neither it is Chief Minister. It is creative mind. In my language it is, you can only do DAU if you are chaos monkeys. Create chaos. Chaos monkeys. Create chaos. But you need to know how to solve for it, right? The innovation only happens if you are a chaos creator. If you are going to be peacefully everything doing it, you can only improve. You can't do 10x. You can do only 10% improvement. Second is MD. Now can you guess what is MD? It is not managing director for sure. It is master of disasters. Somebody who can plan those disasters and be really a master of it, you can then only innovate. What I mean here is, don't try to take it literally by saying, okay, I'll start going and start breaking the wall of the office. That's not the point. The point here is, how will you be somebody to say, okay, this process is not going to work the way it is. Let me reimagine completely new. That is what MD and CM needs to do. Another two interesting mindset shift is experience as a service mindset. Are we delivering experience or are we delivering efficiencies? Efficiencies has to be given. It's a hygiene. It's like brushing your teeth. It's about experience. And experience can only be given if you see the entire journey. Many times we are doing, let's say, accounts payable process. We are doing account receivables process. We are doing cash application process. We know what is cash application process, how well I have to do that. Or this is in transit account. This is in this account. This is in sub-ledger. This is... But finally, if you not see the entire journey across the processes, across the function, you will not be able to deliver the value. And that is very, very important to look at from the experience as a service mindset. It has to be a service mindset. And last but not least, this is my favorite one is, we all need to bring an entrepreneurial mindset. Let's be entrepreneurs. GCC leaders, the CS, we need to be entrepreneurs. I believe what engineers did to the manufacturing space 25, 30 years ago, CA started doing that in the GBS space. There's a huge opportunity for the chartered accountants and the advisory firms to really become part of that rise of the GCCs and building India as the global capital of the GCCs. And I'll leave this page finally with you guys. There are multiple roles possible, and this is more for the youngsters. This is for the young leaders, and this is again, I want to thank the ICAI, I can see Mr. Sanjeev here, for creating this entire platform, because you also are enabling a lot of young CAs to walk into these conferences to hear from all of us. You have multiple roles possible as a career opportunities. You are not just getting siloed with only doing a processing job or accounts payable job or accounting job. I've seen leaders really becoming part of being digital champions, also becoming business leaders. There are many business leaders, they actually work with me. I've seen they started typically as an accounting. Thank you for your time and thank you for patiently listening to me. I think we need to create some bold goals for us, and with this I'll leave my contact details here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Before I request Judge Haira, sir, to give the vote of thanks, I would request, Sunil, sir, wants to add something.
Well, friends, I just want to clarify two things. But before that, I must say to Rakesh ji, it was very interesting and very impressive presentation. And I'm sure most of your eyes only would not be wide open, but even the mind would be wide open. Well, in your terminology, Rakesh ji, let me tell you, you were JF. Just fantastic.